Fisherman reeling in a catch is shaken after noticing the rarest creature. The depths of the ocean hold many wonders undiscovered by humans. Even with the activities like swimming, surfing, and boating, we have hardly scratched the surface. In fact, at least 95% of the ocean is completely unexplored. Fishermen are often on the scene of the discovery by sheer chance. As individuals who spend their lives on the water, they are prone to dredging up interesting creatures as soon as their irresistible bait hits the water. Recently, a fisherman in Maine was privy to one of the rarest, most eye-catching discoveries on the seven seas. In general, marine creatures truly run the gambit as far as appearance. In the ocean, you have the beauty and majesty of something like a blue whale, leaving us land dwellers in awe of marine life. However, not everything in the ocean is pretty. There are a whole bunch of creatures falling in a category that is significantly less aesthetically pleasing. Take the infamously heinous blobfish, for example. It's so ugly that it's almost kind of cute. One Russian fisherman has shared some of the not-so-glamorous shots he takes of the various fish he encounters while out at sea. They're always unique in appearance and sometimes kind of terrifying. It's true that not everything the ocean has to offer is pretty. A lot of creatures that fishermen discover in their daily lives are downright ugly, like this exceptionally hideous codfish. However, sometimes fishermen are lucky enough to discover something beautiful. Recently, a Maine fisherman got the surprise of his life when he pulled one stunning animal from the water. The experience was so unique that most fishermen will go their whole careers without experiencing anything like it. It will come as no shock that one of the biggest items among the fishermen of Maine are lobsters. The whole state is pretty much known for them, and the waters are really just crawling with the delicious crustaceans. Lobster fishermen spend their entire lives hauling in pounds upon pounds of the sea spiders so they can be served up on rolls all around the area. Even the McDonald's in Maine has a lobster roll during the peak of tourist season. With a year-round season, folks on boats are slinging lobsters 24/7. This means they're exposed to hundreds of thousands of lobsters every year. Just one bluish-brown shell after another, until a new kind of lobster appeared. Kim Hartley's husband was going about his usual routine as a lobster fisherman in Cape Rosier, Maine, when he made an incredible discovery. Among the lobsters he caught, one stood out immediately when he pulled it to the surface. The lobster in question had a coloring much different than that of his brethren. Where a muddy brown color would normally be, there was a beautiful pastel blue shell. He separated this anomalous creature from the rest and snapped a photo. Dubbed the cotton candy lobster due to its unique hue, this dazzling guy will not be served up on a plate anytime soon. The chances of catching this lobster are about 1 in a million, which makes Hartley's discovery even more shocking for one specific reason. This is the second time in 4 years that he has caught one of these cotton candy lobsters. Despite the extremely unlikely odds, he has once again come in contact with the unicorn of the lobster world. No one is sure why or how these lobsters have taken on such an interesting shade. Some people believe it may be because of genetic mutation. More commonly, the different coloring is thought to be diet-driven. Normal lobsters get their color from a protein they produce called crustacyanin. When this protein comes in contact with the astaxanthin in the food lobsters eat, it gives them their normal shade. They don't turn bright red until they're cooked. Astaxanthin comes from usual lobster diet highlights like shrimp and crabs. If some lobsters aren't eating those astaxanthin-rich foods, they could begin to lose their normal color and take on this lovely cotton candy shade of blue. At any rate, these pastel lobsters are the most beautiful crustaceans ever. If there was a lobster beauty contest, they'd win. The first lobster Hartley caught is now on display at a Connecticut aquarium for all to enjoy. The pastel shading ended up being a brilliant survival tool, as humans won't be eating this guy anytime soon. Another cotton candy lobster called Lucky has an impressive strong following on social media. He also currently resides in an aquarium where he can flaunt his colors for all of his biggest fans. Pastel lobsters are incredible, And the idea that 95% of waters are untouched is even crazier. In China, however, fishermen are combing through every inch of lake and sea for one particular crustacean. Every September and October, Hangzhi Lake, the fourth largest freshwater lake in China, is abuzz with action. That's because the lake earned a reputation that draws professionals from all over the region. So, nets in hand, fishermen of all ages and sexes paddle out to the heart of the lake in late summer and early autumn, hoping to score a big catch. If they do their jobs right, they're looking at a huge payday. Over the decades, the fishermen honed the craft of pulling these crabs out of the water. In 2016, the anglers of Hangzhi County netted about 6,600 tons of them, which most of them ended up on someone's dinner plate. Local government officials, though, saw a conflict. See, just about every lake in China claimed their mitten crabs tasted the best. Anglers at Yangcheng Lake, for instance, received over 200,000 hairy crab pre-orders in 2017 before fishing season even began. Those were crabs not being bought from Hangzhi County fishermen. Even several decades earlier, Hangzhi officials sensed this looming crab war on the horizon. That's why, about 70 years ago, they put their heads together, brainstorming ways to make buyers choose their crabs over others. Officials, fishermen, and citizens already celebrated crab season every year with the Hangzhi Lake Harvest Festival. There, people got together and cheerfully celebrated the demise of a few million crustacean. But it wasn't enough. Festivals attracted locals, sure, but celebrations of the sort weren't likely to attract buyers from other regions. No, if Hangzhi County wanted to sell more crabs, then officials were going to have to get creative, and they did. To get the word out about their crabs to spread, officials knew, especially decades before the internet, they needed to create something that left festival participants' jaws on the floor, something that would spread to places like Beijing. So the plan was to show off Hangzhi Lake's mitten crabs, but in a way that buyers had never seen before. When the celebration finally arrived that year, it became clear to officials that their scheming would pay off. Buyers gawked as festival patrons marched out crabs dressed in some of the time's hottest fashions. Fabrics and paint adored these crabs, who are now the sauciest animals in the Orient. The effects on crab purchasing were immediate. That's why nearly a century later, the most celebrated event of the Hangzhi Lake Harvest Festival is the Crab Fashion Show. More or less a decoration contest. Upwards of 150 people present their little fashionistas annually. Of course, times have changed since the Crab Fashion Show began. While crabs were once carried to the crab walk by contestants, in 2019, they arrived to the show in fashion, strapped to a fancy drone. Best of all, the crabs have incentive to participate. Because the Chinese consider it bad luck, and probably rude in a weird kind of way, to eat the models that they brought with them, any crab involved in the fashion show gets 1-year immunity. It can't be sold or killed for 365 days. Every crab flaunts a different fashion style. This crab, for instance, rocked a lime green floral design, which boasted bright pink flowers. Did amazing brushwork on this crab shell turn into the blueprint for 2020's next fashion craze? Other participants opted to give their crabs a more pop culture pizzazz. Donning a snazzy silver bow tie, this crab posed alongside a famous Japanese cartoon character called Totoro, a forest spirit that's part raccoon, part cat. And of course, some crabs pay homage to the arts. This guy wore a tiny Cantonese opera crown. The presenter had a great respect for his crustacean, as he spent a lot of time adjusting its ribbons, making sure it looked just right. Though buyers now get their crabs digitally, there's no need to physically travel to each individual lake for supply anymore. The Crab Fashion Show isn't going anywhere. It's become a community staple.